Parents. This is a timely video about the passage. I was going to say recent, but really it was July 1st. I didn't get a chance to comment on this. One of my very talented members of my team, actually my webmaster, brought up that I should do something on this because of the statewide impact of California Assembly Bill 104, or known as AB 104. And I think it is a very important legislation. And frankly, I probably should have commented before this, but I think there's time with the opening of our virtual homework club and some other initiatives we'd like to start with you as a parent concerning your youth and how they got through the pandemic. But I think you'll get the point. So with no further ado, I want to start this. Let's go ahead and get into it right here. Okay. All right. So this is the impact of California Assembly Bill 104. And I give a shout out to ABC 10 in Sacramento, who reported this in their website on July 7th and 2021. There is a part 2 to this video, and I tried to stay out of certain other issues that spin out of this passage of AB 104, but it's an extremely important piece of legislation. I would say the most important in regards to high school education since before the pandemic, I suppose. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on here. So the impact will effective July 1st, and it's regarding the 2020-2021 school year, okay? There's different parts of it, about 3 different portions of the bill. First of all, for students who did not pass half of their classes in 2021, I should probably stop there and say, our data indicates, just looking at our summer students and talking to parents, sounds like 40% of students did better in school during the pandemic. Remember, we have mostly Black and Hispanic students. We have a few that are white, but it's mostly Black and Hispanic. And to tell the truth, 40% of them did well during the pandemic, whether they were in private school or public school. Didn't seem to matter. There was no divide in those 40%. They did exceptionally well. Another 20% did mostly well, i.e. if they were doing a certain thing before the pandemic, they continued the way they were. Even if it was C's and B's, they just continued with C's and B's. So you can't really draw any inference from that. They didn't do better. They didn't do worse. But there's another 30 or 40%, particularly among my male, the grouping is particularly male students, that just checked out and did not do well. We know that in LA Unified, a whole slew of students, about 160,000, which is an incredibly high number. Well, I think that's across the state of California, didn't even log in for school during the pandemic. So we have a lot of Fs and low performance in that group of 40%. We've seen some young men that did do school but didn't pay attention, and young ladies too that just did not do well last school year. They didn't hand in assignments, etc. Now, if it was that first semester of the pandemic, which was spring, of course, there was a passage by the governor, which a special order, which allowed them to do pass or fail that semester. Nothing was said about making up classes. But for those students who did not pass half their classes in 2021, AB 104 requires, this is right from the website, the web article I pointed to, AB 104 requires that school districts, county offices of education, and charter schools to implement a temporary process for students to be able to retake their grade level. So they can take a old grade over if they're not passing at least half of their courses. Now, if it just said that, I would have probably have no problem with it, but I'll talk about my opinion of 104 in a separate video. I don't want to cloud it up with my opinion here. I want to kind of report the news today. So they could retake their grade level, but a lot of people feel that that's sociological implications. Under the new law, a parent can request their child to retake a grade level, after which a consultation must take place within 30 days to allow the parent, student, and teacher student's teacher to determine if it's in the student's best interest. A final decision must be issued within 10 days of the consultation. Now, let me make an observation. This is where I get the idea that it's really great for lower grades. I mean, it's for K-12. So if you have a sixth grade student that made no progress, they need to take that grade over again. There's no way around it. I don't think you're going to be able to do the necessary work to analyze where they are and catch them up in time to get them ready for the next grade. So I'd say even up to 10th grade, I'd consider redoing it. They didn't pass half their classes. I mean, they didn't make progress, probably in English and math. And as you know, those are critical for life performance, not just college. We're talking life now. So I'll have more to say about that in my second video. Also, for these students didn't pass half their class, this is kind of important. AB 104 also requires schools to provide supplemental learning, social emotional supports to students who are ultimately approved to retake a grade level. Of course, we have things here in our enrichment program that will help those students. We have a virtual homework club that's going to get in person really soon. And we're going to have a Saturday enrichment program that I'm really excited about that will help. But they'll have to retake the grade over. They'll also need some social emotional support. I remind you, our counseling center has a great family counseling component and a great play therapy for teenagers that might be very effective to support a student. Also, just mention my name when you call them up. Okay, how about pass, no pass grading? There was things in the legislation about that you need to know as a parent. First of all, this is a repeat of a procedure that was used in spring 2020, the semester of the start of the pandemic. So they allowed schools to go ahead and give students pass or fail grades. This is just a continuance of that. But that, you see, with a new rule like that or a rule change, parents, it really puts you on the spot, especially my 12th grade parents, to properly evaluate the transcript if you have D's and F's and determine what you're going to do, whether you're going to get pass and fail. I think I'll just cover the view graph here. AB 104 will allow high school students enrolled during the 2021 school year to change their letter grades to a pass or no pass. I usually say pass or fail. I probably shouldn't say that. Pass or no pass. That's probably the more politically correct thing to say, but it's a fail. Designation on their transcript, keeping their GPA from being negatively affected, so they're not unfairly disadvantaged for college admissions and still have access to state financial aid for higher education. What this is all about is keeping the student eligible for the Cal Grant, right? Because they have to have a 2.0 to be eligible. If they have D's and F's, they won't be eligible. And I'll talk about what that all means in just a moment. But that's what AB 104 is trying to do. I think it does that pretty well, but you as a parent need to be careful that your student keeps their grades if they're high enough, but we'll talk about that. Again, same thing I had before, it repeats. The bill requires CSU to accept transcripts with a pass or no pass. That's California State University system. Was required by the bill to accept pass or no pass. So if a student passes and they had a D, CSU has to accept it as if they didn't get a D, they passed. Now, I don't know if that means every CSU. I don't think the most impacted CSUs will go for that, right? They want a student that's demonstrably meeting the standards in high school. And I don't know if they're going to agree to that for the A through G classes. The A through G are the required high school classes for college. And then there'd be no impact on the GPA, yeah, right? Because if you had D's driving down the GPA to make a student then non-eligible for CSU under 2.5, then now you take those D's out and you do the average face, maybe only even the first year and a half, and they would be eligible for CSU. More on that in a minute. UC and private, you might ask about, they can follow this, but nobody expects they will, because it said they can in the law. It didn't say, it says they are requested to. So I don't think UC and private schools will follow this. I mean, private schools may selectively follow it if a student just has 1 or 2 passes. They might, if they really want that student. But I don't know how they would calculate the GPA in those cases. So why not? Why won't the UCs and the private colleges, accept pass or no pass, the pass grade? Students not meeting the math and English standards in high school would be masked. So if somebody got D's in their English and math, they'd be masked and they get to CSU with deficient English and math skills, something that CSU has been trying to stop recently, and by increasing their requirements. But I think they can't stop these students from the last year or two that got D's and F's under this, because if they had last year any D's or F's in the last semester of last year, a D or an F. F, of course, they would know because of no pass. But a D, they may not know about a D. So that student with straight D's, like I say here, would get around that. We'll get to that in a minute. There's a 5th year provision for AB 104. For students who are enrolled in 3rd or 4th year of high school during the pandemic, AB 104 would require schools to allow them to complete their high school graduation requirements, including an option to enroll in a 5th year of instruction to ensure students graduate with a high school diploma. Yeah, see, I kind of like this. I think they should get the 5th year and really learn the subjects, but they don't have to. It's for those that want it, right? If the parents want it, they can get that. And I think I explained that a little later. Okay, here's some conclusions and effects of California Assembly Bill 104. If a student got all D's or mostly D's in spring 2020, fall 2021, and or spring 2021, 3 semesters of high school, they could get a passing grade for 12 to 15 courses and could be admitted to their high school's local or non-impacted CSU. Remember, CSUs have already dropped the SAT requirement. So they wouldn't even, the SAT isn't a chance for them to figure out where students are. Boy, I wonder if they'll regret that after this decision. Stay tuned on that. They may look at it, looking at the SAT all of a sudden. I'll let you know right away, parents, don't worry. Current 12th grade students in the above situation should get enrichment services from us for fall and spring 2021-22 to ensure they build their writing and math skills. I'm going to have a Saturday school for algebra, geometry integrated, and for higher math classes, just to make sure that, and writing, I'll do some writing stuff too. We're planning a writing workshop for our middle school and 9th grade students to ensure that they're building their math and writing skills. Because remember, they still get a pass, but now they got to go to the next year and compete with students in that grade, which is, as you'll see in my next video, it's one of the problems I have with this. You can sign up at westa-eep.org or email Quinn at quindavis.eep@gmail.com. She'll be glad to get you the help within our program. Either get you the link to sign up for the virtual homework club or recommend you for Saturday programs, etc. Here's some other impacts of AB 104. So I guess there's no need to make up D's at all. Let me make this view graph visible to you now. I'm sorry. There's no need to make up D's from the last 3 semesters if a local CSU is acceptable and the first 3 semesters GPA of high school, that is, meaning freshman year and then the first semester of the sophomore year. If they're 2.5 or above, this is probably the way to go. Just send them to CSU, and you can do that for cost reasons. Of course, there's some concerns we have for the English and writing skills of that student getting ready to attend a college. And I suspect CSU is going to do something about that. Not to stop the students, but to create opportunities for more enrichment. And we, again, you can use our program for that. The Saturday program will be where you want to send them. Private schools out of state probably will be cautious, but accepting California students with passes for several classes in 10th and 11th grade and high GPAs. Yeah, this requirement here to deal with these Ds, i.e. being able to get a pass, is primarily targeted at 10th and 11th. Okay, so you can get a pass for classes in 10th and 11th, and have a high GPA. But private schools, I don't know if they're going to take that. They're going to probably notice high GPAs and a lot of passes. And if I know the private college people properly, private colleges, they're not going to go for that. I just don't think so. And for that matter, private high schools looking at students with pass, they're going to give them a diagnostic, I'm sure. But there's no need to make up the D's if you got a pass. That first bullet is still valid, right? And CSU would be a viable selection for cost reasons. Now, parents who have students with currently a 2.5 GPA or above should make up the Fs, so you might have a couple of Fs in there, and ask for passes on the Ds, and maybe even the Cs if you're going for a selective college, a selective CSU. You might want to get rid of the Cs too and have a pass on those. I probably wouldn't do more than 3 or so passes from trying to get to a selective CSU like San Diego State, Long Beach, Fullerton, any of the more impacted CSU, for that matter, LA and Northridge, if you're not in the areas. Those are very impacted schools. There's others, I don't know if I mentioned Fullerton, that one too. So those kind of schools, I think they're going to notice, if you have too many passes. Maybe 2 passes, they won't notice. Maybe they'll notice what subject the passes are in. Again, CSU may change their approach. The minute I know, I'll report it to my 12th grade parents and my 11th grade, because they're knocking on the door too. All right. A couple other things. West A EEP recommends, here's our recommendation, my recommendation as director, that parents who have students who failed more than half their courses should consider an additional year of high school or an additional grade, take the grade over again and delay your high school at the end, and build those skills up. And I know that'll cause, some people think that will cause sociological problems because they'll be ashamed. Of course, the district is offering you support for that. But if you want them to go on, you better get them the enrichment that's needed, or a 2-year college at Trade Tech or El Camino after graduation may be the way you want to go if they graduate with a lot of passes on D classes. I want to go ahead and send them to 2-year college. You can start their 2-year college credits now. My next video will tell you more about that, but many of you have signed up, but many of you have not. Students can take classes this semester for college credit. They might as well start now if you know they have a lot of Ds that you're going to put a pass on. Okay? And get them ready for 2-year college, and then they can go on to 4-year school after a year or two. AB104 is not really a solution to the digital divide. Let me tell you what the digital divide is. During the pandemic, students that were in the west part of LA, say west of La Cienega, had more resources and more computer access. And typically the students that go there are in a different family salary level than they are on the east of Crenshaw. So the digital divide meant that students who were in schools on the eastern part or east of La Cienega or east of Crenshaw in Los Angeles got better online learning, had better tools. The teachers were better equipped and did a better job at teaching students from the West than they did in the East. So we call that a digital divide. In fact, many students on the East didn't even log in LA. I think it was 40,000 in LA. And then most of them were from high schools out in the East part of LA. And that's a serious problem. We call that a digital divide. This was an unfortunate byproduct of our reaction to not having in-person classes during the pandemic when the science kind of allowed it, but I won't go down that path again. So I don't think AB 104 is a solution to the digital divide issues. It's really an equity-based solution. Remember, equity-based solutions deal with the outcome, not the opportunity. So we have these students that may not make it to college. Let's change the rules, give them a chance. I mean, an extreme example of that was Oregon, where the governor suspended all high school requirements to allow Black and brown students to go to college. And I say you're just, leading them to disaster because they won't have the skills they need to do that. So that's what happens with equity-based solutions. I have a video about equity versus equality. If you want to take the time to look through our videos. I do hope you do subscribe and like to make sure you get our videos in the future. AB104 implements an equity-based, outcome-based approach to graduate non-performing students. Students that got Ds can still graduate and go to CSU. Rather than working with the community-based organizations like us and within LAUSD and Long Beach Unified School District, while my mind is on an Inglewood School District for that matter, I know it's run by the state, also Compton, I know they're all run by the state, and Oakland, if you're getting this up north, those are the school districts that are most going to benefit from this, where students will have a chance to go to CSU with Ds actually. Rather than working within those school districts and with the community-based organizations like us to make stronger students at CSU, meaning working on the opportunity end to give students more academic opportunity for another year, up to another year before they leave, and even two-year college, okay? Two-year colleges can't be excited about getting additional students that can't do, that will take them longer to get them ready for a four-year college if they don't make it. But it's going to be harder for them not to make it at this point. I bet they see a decline in enrollment from high school students in this case. It significantly harms CSU's meaningful attempts, in my opinion, to graduate more students of color through 2025 and 2026. Notice it said graduate, not admit. That's been the problem in CSU. They've continuously been trying, and did get a slight improvement this year, even during the pandemic. They want to graduate more students of color, okay? They want to raise those numbers. They just want to get it to 40% by 2025. I mean, it was 20%, 17%, I believe, for Black students just 4 years ago. But I think this is going to significantly harm their attempts to graduate more each year. In fact, there was a name for that initiative, the CSU 2025 initiative. Again, I have a video on this very early, more than a year ago. I did a video on the CSU's increased math requirement in high school to require 4 years of math, with the fourth year being math or quantitative reasoning. That was the idea, to make better students. That was before the pandemic, but the idea was to make stronger students within CSU, and we fully still support that, whether CSU can or cannot, because I suspect they can't really fight this ruling by the assembly. It passed both houses, and then the governor signed it on July 7th. So I don't know what CSU can do. I actually want to talk to them about that and report back to you. How about EEP assistance with high school student enrichment? I mentioned that a couple times. You can contact us for further information. You can email Quinn Davis, like I said earlier. She's our communication specialist. She'll make sure that people that need to get that information, like Nicole Johnson, who's our assistant project director on the program. She runs our homework club, and she runs just ran our summer program, and she'll be taking on greater and greater responsibility for some of these academic enrichment issues. That's really what she's over. And we're going to set up a Saturday school and some director support for students as well. But get hold of Quinn Davis. She's keeping a list of people who need help this school year. And by the time we get to the other side of September 7th, we'll be getting back to you. If you're case of the homework club, we'll immediately get back to you. And of course, you can just email me if you have a question about anything you saw in this video. And like I said, please feel free to like the video and to subscribe to our channel so you get these videos when they drop in the future. God bless you. We hope to hear from you soon. And I hope this was helpful to you. Give me some feedback like you usually do about this. I'm sorry I went a little long, but I don't know a shorter way I could have done this. And I sure hope I kept your attention. God bless you now. Bye-bye now.